All right, guys, ready? All right, so we're going to answer the problem of evil through these 4 questions, subsections. All right. So, does evil disprove God? All right. So, how can the statement an all-powerful and all-good God exist and evil exist both be true? And how come there's unnecessary or pointless evil? All right. So now it's which one you guys want to do? Okay. I'll go fast. All right, ready? So first of all, we're going to go through the doctrine, Christian doctrine of evil. What causes evil? All right, so first of all, mankind is in a state of rebellion against God and his purpose. All right, so the terrible human evils in the world are testimony to man's depravity and his state of spiritual alienation from God. What I'm trying to say is that there's also demonic creatures who are also incredibly evil, whose power lies in creation, joins the rebellion to seek and destroy God's work and purpose. So one of the powers of evil is actually human free will. Every time we choose to disobey God, we actually give power to Satan and his demons. So that's the subsection of Christian doctrine. So then scriptures indicate that God has given mankind up to its sin and has freely chosen. Remember the human free will? He does not interfere to stop it, but lets human depravity run its course. And when he puts man in the Garden of Eden, he said, let them rule. So with the choices that you pick, the consequences are going to follow. And the Christian is actually not surprised at the moral evil of the world. We actually kind of expect it. Since you see all this evil, we actually kind of expect it since you have the principalities of this world and you have human free will. So the second doctrine, we're only going to 2 doctrines in this one. God's purpose is not restricted to this life, but spills beyond the grave. In human doctrine, we don't die. When we die in the grave, we just don't cease to exist. We actually are eternal. Our spirit keeps living and so on. So according to scriptures, this life is but eternity. When God allows his children to bear horrible suffering in this life, it is only with the prospect of a heavenly joy and recompense that is beyond all recomposition. So what do you mean, Vitor? So let me show you Paul as an example. Look at Paul. This man was whipped 5 different times, receiving 39 lashes. 3 times he was beaten with wooden rods. In one instance, he was surrounded by a mob and stoned him, threw stones and rocks at him, and dragged his body out of the city, leaving him for dead. In addition, he was shipwrecked 3 times. Once he spent the whole night and day adrift at sea. He was just there at sea the whole night and day. He faced danger in the cities, in the deserts, and on the seas, enduring many sleepless nights. And he was hungry, thirsty, and often had gone without food for some period of time. And often he shivered at night because he could not have enough clothes to keep him warm. And that was all because for the sake of the gospel. So let me show, this is actually so funny. 2 Corinthians 4:16, this is what Paul's saying. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs us all, blah, blah, blah. Look, all those stuff that I listed, you guys, all the stuff he faced, he calls them light and momentary troubles. Like, if I stub my pinky toe, I'm done. Like I'm done. And all that he faced, he just called it light and momentary. So the reason why he called it light and momentary, let me give you this analogy. So basically, this is what's going on in Paul's life. When Paul's enemy said, oh, Paul, we're going to kill you. You're going to die. Paul says, all right, to be away from the bodies, to be present with the Lord. If you kill me, I'm going to be with Jesus. All right, so then they say, all right, we're going to let you live. So what he says, all right, that's fine. I can continue to preach the good news, fulfilling the purpose of God, which means many people can be saved. So then his enemies was like, all right, I'm going to make you suffer. I'm going to meet you halfway. He says, all right, to suffer is to gain more heavenly rewards. So basically Paul's saying, I never lose. So that's the whole point. So why is Paul saying that? He understood that the length of this life, being finite, is literally infinitesimal in comparison with the eternal life we shall spend with God. So it's like Francis Chang. Our life is legit a rope. Imagine I have a rope here, and it goes on for eternity. And you have a little small sticker, and that's our life. The red sticker is our life on earth. And then the whole entire rope is our life in eternity. So this life we have on earth is finite. It's so small compared to the infinite life that we have. So that's what he understood clearly. But when we keep in mind that life does not end in the grave, this is what he says. God will actually wipe away every tear from our eyes, and there shall be no more death, no more sorrow, no more crying. There shall be no more pain. This is a promise of our God. And when people says, well, if Vitor's a good God, why doesn't he stop all the evil? Yet. He will stop the evil. Not yet. He has a time, and he's coming. And said, only the fullness and divine joy and glory then, the problem of evil does not seem so severe. If we're only suffering these 80 years in our life, we're not even guaranteed 80 years. You know, when I call people old, it's actually all subjective. Like, if I'm going to die at 30 and I'm 20 years old, that means I'm pretty old. But if a person is 60 years old but they died at 100, they're fairly young. So then at this small time that we have, that the moment that we suffer is in recompense with all the eternal joy that we can face in eternal salvation. So and then now oh my gosh. All right. Okay, does evil disprove God? Let me snap right here. As a matter of fact, evil proves God's existence. Why? Because you couldn't have evil if there was no God. You couldn't have evil if there was no God. Let me go more. By what standard are you judging evil? If there is no God, just like I said last time, it's all subjective. It's a matter of opinion. Remember, atheism cannot account for objective evil. If it was all subjective, simply changing our minds could get rid of the problem of evil. You see about that? And the point I want to make is the way you would measure an objective standard of evil would require a transcendent standard. So someone who's outside of space, outside of time, outside of matter is what I mean by God. So then it's exactly what C.S. Lewis, who was an atheist, and this argument actually compelled him to the Christian faith. Actually, first the theism and then the Christian faith. He says, my argument against God was that the universe seems so cruel and unjust, but how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. What was I comparing with the universe when I called it unjust? So let me give you an analogy. The shadows prove the sunshine. In order to have shadows, evil, you have to have sunshine, good. You have to have, you can have good without evil. You can't have sunshine without shadows, but you can't have shadows, evil without sunshine. You guys don't understand it, right? All right, let me show you this analogy. So here's a guy taking a picture right there, and here's the shadow. So what he's saying is that the shadows prove the sunshine. So can we have a shadow if there was no sunshine? No, it's not possible. All right. So you can have sunshine good without evil. Is it possible to have sunshine without a shadow? Of course. If it was not there, there'll be no shadow. But here, whoa. All right. So but you can have sunshine without shadow, but you cannot have shadows evil without sunshine. Can you have a shadow without sunshine? It's not possible. So the objective standard of God, simply by understanding shadows, evil, we know what is good and objectively good. You gotta know what I'm saying? All right, good. All right, so the problem of evil doesn't disprove God. And even atheists, they consider this as a fact. But what they try to argue is it's all subjective. And then that's a whole different argument. So you cannot have evil without the existence of God. Therefore, evil does exist. Therefore, God exists. All right? So the problem of evil, let's tackle this, all right? Since evil doesn't disprove God, but let's tackle this. So there's two problems of evil. There's the intellectual problem. How is it logically possible to have an all good God, all loving, and evil exist? How is that possible? And then this emotional problem of evil. How is there pointless and, unnecessary suffering in this world? It seems so unnecessary. Let's go to it. Intellectual problem of evil. So this is what Epicurus is, a Greek philosopher. They still use this. This is what he said. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he's not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he's malevolent. If he is both able and willing, then whence cometh evil? If he is neither able nor willing, then why call him God? I broke this down. He's basically saying either God is unable to stop people from acting what they do, which is sin. Sin is a byproduct of our free will. If he's unable to stop it, that means he's not all-powerful. Or if he doesn't want to stop it, if he wants to let people continue evil, then he's not all-loving. It's like, whoa, which one do we pick? Let me do this. Assumptions. This is what they're assuming. If God is all-powerful, then he can create any world he chooses. Is that right? So that's the assumption they're making. All right. That's what they're assuming. Second assumption, if God is all good, then he would prefer a world without evil over a world with evil. All right, he would prefer a world without evil than with evil. All right, let's check actually the assumptions. The assumptions both are false. It is not necessarily true that an all-powerful God can create just any possible world with free will. It's exactly what I said. Yes, God is infinite. He can do logically anything possible as long as it's not a logical contradiction. So, whoa, Vitor, you're saying that God cannot do stuff? Yes. God cannot create a square circle. How? I tried doing that. It's impossible. A one-headed stick. It's impossible to be a one-headed stick. A stick always has two ends. A married bachelor. Bachelor means someone who is not married. So how can you be married and unmarried? So this is the point I want to make. God cannot make someone freely choose something. You see, make and freely are direct opposites. If you make someone choose something, then that choice is no longer free. All right? So if you cause a person to make a specific choice, then that choice is no longer free. If God grants people genuine freedom to choose as they like, then the possibility of someone disobeying God is very likely. So this is what William Lane Craig, apologist, says. All he can do is to create the circumstances in which a person is able to make a free choice. Then he stands back and let them make that free choice. Just like Genesis says, let them rule. So he's to face their own consequences. Therefore, it is the creatures themselves who bring about evil. It is the creatures, it's human beings. And God can do nothing to prevent their doing so unless he removes free will. And I had a conversation. Or if you thought, then why couldn't God take away free will? If he took free will, then we'll be robots. We won't be human beings. We won't be able to have love. We won't have to have affection. We'll have none of these qualities. We'll basically be a Microsoft Word. That's it. Without free will. And the second assumption, if God is all good, then he would prefer a world without evil over a world with evil. That assumption is actually kind of false. The fact is that he may have sufficient reason for permitting pain and suffering in someone's lives. He may have sufficient reason. So parents, you know this example. When you whip your kids, you do it why? Because you hate them? Of course not. You do it because you're trying to teach them to become a mature and responsible adult. So therefore, God may permit suffering in our lives to build or test us, to build or test others, or to achieve some overriding end. So the statement, an all-powerful God, an all-powerful, all-good God exists and evil exists, both can be true. Is there assumptions that are false? All right? So now let's go to the emotional problem of evil. This is a big one. All right? So it seems like there's so much pointless suffering in this world. So much, and it's gratuitous means it's so big. Why? Certainly many evils seem pointless and gratuitous to us. Let me show you some examples. Even Christians have suffered this. These are actually real examples. The prominent Christian leader who was decapitated. Decapitated means your head was cut off after a sledding accident when he ran into a barbed wire. Why would God allow that? Or what about of the pastor who backed out of his driveway and ran over his infant son who was behind the car? That seems so unnecessary. It seems so pointless. Or what about the Canadian missionaries whose little daughter fell from a third-story window to the concrete pavement, suffering severe brain damage? Are you serious? Why? It seems so pointless. Or what about children with cancer? They can't choose. They're so small. How come you can blame free will on that? How can you blame free will on children with cancer? I'm not going to answer that. I do not know. I do not know. But let me give you an example. As I said, free will is the cause of evil. And in addition, you have the principalities, such as the devil and demons. But let me give you a pathway in order that helps me answer this problem. Certainly, many evils seem to be pointless, gratuitous. But how can we really be sure of that? How can we really be sure that it's actually pointless? So we cannot know if it's pointless. It may be directed. And you cannot know its purpose. We are simply not in the position to know why God permits various evils to occur and to assess such answers or probabilities with any confidence. We do not know. God may have an overriding end. He may use this pointless suffering in our perspective to an overgrading good. So therefore, God may have morally sufficient reason to allow evil. So many people are like, wow, Vitor, you're just saying, the problem evil gum, you're saying, God works in mysterious ways. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not appealing to mystery. What I'm saying is I'm pointing out the limitations that comes to solve this problem. The point is that trying to make is that assessments and probability with regard to evil can be difficult and even impossible. to evaluate. But let me give you, just like this, look. Jacques Mozabre, he's a French Dominican priest. Look what he says. If God would concede me of his omnipotence for 24 hours, you would see how much changes I will make this world. But if he gave me his wisdom too, I will leave everything as they are. So he says, man, if I had God's power, you were going to see how much stuff I would do in 24 hours. But if I always had his wisdom, his understanding, I'll leave everything as it is. Because we can't comprehend God's own wisdom. God is too beyond of our limitations. But let me give you one possibility. This is really cool. It's called the ripple effect. So let me give you the synopsis. It says, scientists have studied that a butterfly fluttering over on a branch in West Africa may set in motion forces which eventually issue in a hurricane over the Atlantic Ocean. Yet it is impossible for the principle for anyone observing that butterfly. What are you basically saying? Through the ripple effect, I'm saying, in other words, small decisions that we do may occur a part of monumental outcomes. Let me give an example. All right, this sucks, but I'm going to say it. So I'm driving like that, and then I was going straight to work, but then you had this turn, this lane that was going left. It was a shortcut street to get to work. I was like, should I go? I was like, okay, I'm going. And I went to the shortcut street. But look what happened to the shortcut street. Turns out there was a cop hiding in the bushes. I got a $255 speeding ticket. I hit traffic. I got to work 30 minutes late. And my parking spot was taken, and I was stressed. Can you see how it rippled? Just one thing. And now imagine how my day would have been if I just stayed on my lane, if I just continued on that lane. Imagine. Now take into account 7 billion people freely making these decisions. Small decisions that we do, exemplifying into bigger decisions. And so what's the point you're trying to make, Vitor? All right. The unnecessary or pointless evil in this world may be a ripple effect of our sin. The abuse of our free will may lead to higher reaction of consequence of sin, leading to the unnecessary tragedies. You see what I'm saying? So it could be a ripple effect of our own sin. We are simply not in the position to know it, but God may use it for greater glory. But when I look at this quote from John Lennox, who was a mathematician and Christian apologist, he says, as a Christian, when I see the cross, I see that God did not shy away from this problem, the problem of evil, but he introduced himself into the problem. Exactly. Because when you look at the cross, God didn't just stand there and in heaven, it's like, oh, these people are going to suffer. No, he introduced himself to the problem, laying his life, suffering on our behalf, in order for him to abolish this evil once and for all. So yes, he is going to end this evil, but he's going to come in his own terms. So the problem of evil doesn't disprove God's existence. Why? Because although we may not know the purpose of some unnecessary or pointless evil, this does not nullify his existence. Because just like the last seminar, you have the beginning of the universe, you have the fine-tuning argument, you have the objective moral values, and you also have the resurrection. All right? So that was really short. All right, that's it. All right, so that's the whole outcome of my seminar, was just to give you guys more information about that. And well, when I was growing up, if you guys don't know, I'm a pastor's son. I'm a PK, a preacher's kid. And through starting high school, I was struggling a lot with these factual doubts. I love science, I still do. And then with these factual doubts, like, man, I thought like, oh my gosh, everything goes against my beliefs. But then when I actually started studying it, it actually only strengthened my beliefs. Preparing this seminar, like, it's just, it's awesome. So that's what I want to point to you. If you guys are struggling with this factual doubt, investigate. I have more books in my car if you need to about the resurrection and whatnot. But to get really serious about this, just like I said last time, not to be apathetic. Don't simply not care. Start your relationship right now, especially you juniores, you young teenagers. Start a relationship right now. Start getting serious with God. Don't do the same mistake that I did, keeping God, not caring until I was like 16 or 17. So then that's what I pray that you guys do today. And don't be ignorant. Don't just lack information. Start reading and brushing up, all right?